Welcome back. You're watching News Gang. We thank you for staying with us. We want to make a point to note that there was some incident that happened. Listen, our next topic is about political violence that reared its head again over the last 7 days. And there was violence again today in Parliament with a young man who presented himself at the precincts of Parliament just before the budget was read, and it wasn't a pretty sight. So we want to prepare that footage for you, and then we'll get back to that and talk about it, because it just speaks to, an era of intolerance in this country, really, quite frankly. So we're preparing that footage, and we'll come back and touch on it in just a few moments. So give us that, and we'll get back to that. But, politically, Linus, what's happening? We're here again. I mean, from by-elections, the ones in Muranga, Keno, when two persons died, and we've seen so much more with the deputy president in Kondele, and then again now, with Raila's chopper. That was over the weekend, I believe, when he went for the burial of the late Jackson Kibor. Linus, I mean, so predictable.
It is actually very frustrating, considering the name we have in the region. We are actually the first country in the region to go to multi-party politics. We started in 1992, and Tanzania followed us in 1995 by holding their first multi-party elections. Uganda had something called a no-party system. And then, I don't know what the system is right now. It looks like multi-partyism, but it doesn't work like one. So, but look at the environment. It's not growing at the same rate as the name and the reputation of the country, because our politics really have this underlying tone of violence. There's so much hatred. There's so much online negativity, for example. You just need to go to the various hashtags that are driving our politics even tonight, and you'll see what ordinary Kenyans are doing, insulting each other. There is no exchange, no civilized exchange of ideas. And then this chopper incident happens in Cabernet during the burial of, or can we say after the burial of Jackson Kibor. And it went far, and far enough to shock everyone into to jolt everybody into some reaction that this is absolutely not normal. This is completely different. Yet, we must acknowledge there have been similar incidents before. There was an incident in Kenol where there was fighting. There was one in Chaka and Kieni up there at some point. Then there was Kondele. But then comes the helicopter incident, and it's only then that we seem as a country to have gotten shocked into some reaction that, hey, do we really want to go in this direction? And,
Francis, of course, there was then talk of double standards, with what's happening. But I think, the real issue is that this is something, that happens, and we're sort of getting immune to it. I mean, this is not the first time. People have died, and this typically happens, around this time, and surely.
I would say it's political bad manners. Yeah. We are 30 years into multi-party democracy. I mean, a 30-year-old human being knows what to do. We are 30 years into multi-party democracy. By now, we should have developed tolerance. By now, we should have developed, good political manners. By now, we should have known that it is possible to have your view and another person to have their view and not fight about it. That it is possible for somebody to go to one area and attend a function, seek votes, and if you don't like them, fine. No one is forced to vote for candidate A or candidate B.
No, actually, forced to attend the rally.
Actually, you don't have to like them.
Yeah.
You don't have to like them. You don't have to vote for them. And the best way you can deal with a political leader or a political candidate that you don't like is, first, deny them your audience. Don't go to their functions. And number two, deny them your vote. Because at the end of the day, on 9th of August 2022, that small booth, you go alone, unless you want to be assisted as an assisted voter. It's a personal choice. You go there and make a choice. Actually, no one forces anyone. You go and choose whoever you want.
Or you can even decide to not vote.
You can even decide not to vote. Although I discourage not.
Yes, I know. But the idea is that it's a personal choice whether you vote or not, who you vote for.
I mean, we must sit back and rethink how we want to be as a democracy, because if we want to be a shining example in the East African region for the strides that we have made as a country in terms of democracy, then we must give the right example. We must, at all times show the right example. And the right example is, 1, political tolerance, number 2, political maturity, and number 3, political choices. We must make them and make them correctly. But at the same time, we must also remind the security agencies and the security functionaries of our country that the moment you're seen to be partisan, the moment you're seen to take sides, then you make it possible for ordinary citizens to lose faith in you as an institution.
Okay.
So the same force that is meted on those who attack candidate A must be the same force for candidate B, so that there is a sense and a semblance of fairness. But at the same time, it is also important to remind, especially the young people who participate in electoral violence, that, by the way, the people that you fight for, and on their behalf, they have children of your age, and you never see them in the political campaigns fighting and throwing stones. So why would you do it? Why would somebody from Banana or somewhere else throw stones at their neighbor or fight them because of their political affiliation? I mean, the people that you fight for have children who can fight for themselves, and for them if they need to.
Absolutely.
Even for me, 2 incidents that happened 2 days apart come to mind when you talk about violence. During elections, 2 aspirants were shot in Kisii and Mombasa, barely 2 days apart. There's Mr. Thomas Ontweka, who unfortunately passed on, was an aspirant for the Bombaba Borabu ward seat in Kisii County. He was attacked on Sunday night in his home, and he passed on while he was undergoing treatment at Kisii Hospital. And then 2 days later, a car belonging to Ali Mwatsahu, a UDA aspirant from Vita parliamentary seat, was sprayed with bullets. They're saying almost 20. And he was rushed to Aga Khan Hospital, Mombasa, and apparently the assailants tried to get to him while in hospital. He's undergoing treatment, and thankfully he survived the attack. But Yvonne, such incidents are not new, and I talk about those that happen in months leading up to general elections. I'll go back to 2018 when an Ukunda ward aspirant in the elections for 2017 was shot dead alongside a friend in Ukunda. And then in February 2017, Loma Yorok ward MCA Frederick Kibet and Tiati parliamentary seat aspirant Simon Kitamba were shot dead by masked men while having drinks in Baringo County in Marigat. On May 21st of the same year, Komarok MCA aspirant Edison Natembea was shot dead by armed gunmen who had attempted to carjack him. He passed on. And then this was a weird one. On May 19th of the same year, 3 of Kapsoya ward aspirant James Ratemo's missing children, who are aged between 3 and 6 years old, were found dead and dumped in the River Nzoia in Eldoret. The bodies were found the same day as that of another missing aspirant, Mr. Thomas Minito from Baringo County. The body was discovered by a border operator. So those are several incidents. And then now, remember in 2017, barely a month to the elections, when the IEBC ICT manager Chris Musando was found dead. So when you hear such incidents that happen before elections, you worry about your safety as an aspirant, leave alone us as Kenyans who worry about electoral violence during and after polls, as what we saw in 2007, 2008, and since then. So what about the aspirants who are getting attacked and killed? We already had these 2 in a space of 2 days.
Surely.
Of course, we had the meeting of security apparatus, I think earlier in the week. We had the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutor. I think we had a representative from the National Police Service, from the Judiciary. I think NCIC was also there. But then now they tell us they're doing all this and that and this and that. But then we see such instances. It's worrying in terms of security of our aspirants and also of us as Kenyans.
But it really does speak to an era of intolerance in this country. I think, like Lena said at the beginning, we just don't seem to have the capacity to understand that people have different views and that everybody has the right to express them without branding them one way or another, harassing them, or violence. And it's not just in politics, but it really is something very general in our country. Like what happened today. We have the clip ready, you know, to show you this young man apparently went to the precincts of Parliament to protest the high cost of living ahead of the budget presentation and tabling in Parliament.
Actually, it was outside the National
It was outside the National Treasury. Just take a look at this footage. Honest, what is this?
It is.
What is this for? Is he not allowed to go out there and say, you know, what he wants to say? And then there was a picture, I think, that came out, and he had a bloodied face, and I don't know.
You see, Yvonne, what we are seeing here is consistent with our national growth pattern. We are still confused in terms of whether we belong in the ways of the past or we adopt the ways of the future. Picketing is a right in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. There could even have been more demonstrators today with an absolute right to stand in front of the Treasury of the National Assembly and say, we have these following feelings about the budget. And they have the right to peaceably express those.
And unarmed. Like
and
that
unarmed.
guy.
Like he is unarmed. But we have a national police service that is still very much in transition. They do not find us.
How long, Linus, though?
How
long does that transition take?
Well, everyone is in transition. I mean, even our politicians are still stuck. We have stunted growth, if we can put it that way, because the treatment of this guy, and we saw images that emerged later. I really hope that was not his image, where he's got a bloodied face and all that. You know, picketing and even by single protesters is common.
Yeah.
There is Peter Tatchell of the UK.
Yes.
A serial protester who many times even tried to conduct what he called a citizen arrest
yes.
on President Robert Mugabe.
Yeah.
What would Kenyan police have done with Peter Tatchell? He used to do very, very dangerous kind of picketing because he would go to a presidential function and trying to arrest the president of Zimbabwe. In Kenya, if this is how a harmless, unarmed, just noisy protester is treated, then Peter Tatchell would be dead if he was Kenyan.
You know, one thing I'm wondering, so they you know, bundled him into the back of that police pickup. So they're taking him to the police station, and he will be charged with what? Exactly.
Wrap him up and then...
No, he'll be charged with what? With exercising his you know, God-given and constitutional given right to protest and picket.
Obviously, you will hear a charge like creating disturbance, you know. But I think what is important to point out at this point is that, you see, what is the worst that could have happened if this
was allowed
to say whatever he wanted to say and relax there? I mean, we've seen demonstrations in this country, some that have turned very violent. This guy was alone. There was no violence. What is the worst that could have happened? And I think sometimes these are some of the events or some of the scenes that we see that totally dent the image of a national event like the tabling of the budget highlights like we witnessed today. Imagine we are discussing that at this point instead of discussing the content of the budget. That tells you, as Lina says, the transition, that there are some things that should not happen. I mean, we long came from the past. We are moving forward as a country. But some of these scenes, they take us back, and
they do.
And Yvonne, he was talking about, he was shouting things that actually were in a lot of people's hearts and minds, like how difficult life has been with the current situation. And he was shouting and he was talking about saying things that people actually want to say, just that he was brave enough to go and say it outside the Treasury building, and these were the consequences of trying to...
And by the way, Jamila, the people, the men who are manhandling him are suffering from the same issues that he was raising.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, rising cost of living is for everybody, including the guys who are arresting him. But you see, well, it is one thing to keep peace. It is one thing to enforce security, but it is another to be unnecessarily, I don't know what to say.
Heavy-handed, I think,
heavy-handed, if you may.
you know, would be one of those things. So listen, there's lots of intolerance in this country, everywhere, it would seem, and that is a cause for worry for what we like to say is a very robust democracy in the region. We're taking a break. When we come back, we talk about nominations, the headache, it's already on. There is complaints. And of course, another headache, coalition party building. We'll be discussing that and much more when we come back. This is News Gang.